Welcome to We Don't Have Cookies with your host, Jason Marshall.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading the show and welcome to episode 273. It's going to be a lot of fun. The podcast official weatherman and YouTube sensation Frankie MacDonald will be here. The blind Australian filmmaker Gough will be returning to talk about his latest film. But first, I have another guest who is returning to the show. You've seen him on TV. You've seen him on Netflix. You've seen him in the movies. He's toured the country doing stand-up comedy and recently toured the country to make a run for the presidency. It's the one and only Ben Gleib. How you doing?
I'm good, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm very happy to have you back on. I have a lot of questions about your candidacy. I was wondering, do you have any funny stories from your time on the campaign trail? Because a lot of candidates, they come back with these heartfelt and touching stories or things like that. I was wondering if there was anything that may have happened that you thought was humorous.
Sure. I mean, aside from the fact that we lost pretty bad, which was pretty funny, we had a great run and had some amazing, tons and tons of amazing, inspiring moments, but definitely some ridiculous things. A lot of it surrounding how we couldn't get the media to give us the love we needed. So we didn't get very much mainstream media love, but even in the early voting states of New Hampshire and Iowa, we got some love. Like I'm on the front page of the Nashua Telegraph newspaper. Great. Then I go to Iowa and I'm on WHO, Insiders with Dave Price, their famous political commentary show. And then I go the next day to the Iowa State Fair and they have their infamous corn poll where people vote for what candidate they want with kernels of corn into a mason jar. And I didn't even have a mason jar. They didn't give me a damn jar. And so I asked them what was up. They didn't know. The next day I go do WHO again with Dave. And I say to Dave, why didn't I have a damn mason jar? And he looks at me dead serious in the eye and he goes, yeah, well, we had a meeting about it. They had a meeting. They took the time to have a meeting, but still decided I shouldn't have a jar. What's the harm in giving an extra person a jar who you clearly deem serious enough that you're having on your network?
Right.
That was pretty bonkers, if you ask me.
I don't want to get too serious, but was the lack of media coverage shocking to you? Because you're somebody who has been on different news networks to give your political opinion and add some humor to it. You've been on Joe Rogan numerous times.
I've never been on Joe Rogan.
Oh, really?
No, I've never been on Joe Rogan, and Joe didn't have me on this cycle either. But I've definitely been on plenty of news shows doing political commentary, and I was shocked. I was shocked at the fact that the media didn't give a very established person in this industry more love. And I think I know why after that whole process. It was just clear to me they don't like anything that they can't control the narrative on. They don't want surprises. They don't want outsiders. It's built to boost up insiders, establishment people, and part of the already established rich elite that either bring them ratings, keep the power structures in place, or they're just afraid of rich people for the third option. And I wasn't those things. And they don't want somebody who they're going to have to figure out what's going on. They're going to have to dive in. They might not be able to control what they say, not know what they're going to say. I was calling out the media a lot. And that was something they don't want to have on their air if they can avoid it. So if it's Donald Trump, sure, he brings them ratings while he calls them out. That's a fair trade-off for them in their eyes. But they truly didn't want to report what was happening. Like, I can't tell you how many diagrams they'd put in, like the New York Times, saying, here's the 12 candidates still in the race. And there was still 200 candidates in the race. And there was at least 10 beyond the initial 12 that were very serious about it. And they're just not even telling you. They're not even writing in their chart, these are the top candidates. They're saying these are the candidates. They just evaporated me from existence. And even that said, I still got 0.1% of the vote in New Hampshire 2 months after I dropped out and tied the other failed candidacies of Kamala Harris, Marianne Williamson, and Cory Booker, and Julian Castro.
Well, I think we made history on this podcast for being the only person to confuse Joe Rogan with Doug Benson.
That is very much correct. I've been on Doug Benson a number of times, and he did have me on during the campaign.
What kind of interactions did you have with the other candidates?
I met a lot of them on the campaign trail. Bernie Sanders, Cory Booker, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, Andrew Yang, Seth Moulton, Joe Sestak. They were all cool, except the guy I'm now endorsing. Bernie Sanders didn't have time for me. I think he was late to go speak and didn't pause much when I went up to say hi, to shake his hand. He kind of kept his stride going and didn't give me any pleasantries. I still support him because he's our best chance to change the system. I don't need a guy that's super polite. I need a guy that will get the job done and who cares about the issues that'll help people. He doesn't need to be Santa Claus, you know?
That's a very good way to look at it. I like that answer. You're a big fan of pot pie. Did you have any pot pie with another candidate?
No, I would never do that. I wouldn't want to impose that on them or assume that they're into pot pie the way I am. And so I didn't even broach the topic. I wanted to. I really wished Amy Klobuchar and I could have sat down for a pot pie, but I didn't want to ask. I did crash her press conference, so she might be a little bitter towards me at this point.
I've noticed over the years, a lot of times certain candidates become closer with other candidates. There's rumors that maybe this person, if they get ahead, they'll have that person as the VP. Did you ever see that on the campaign trail where you thought, I could see me teaming up with this person, whether it's the VP or at the top of the ticket? Or did you really feel that dynamic with anybody else as far as them looking at somebody else as somebody they may run with in the future?
I felt like Andrew Yang and I had a really good connection and great conversation, and he started following me on Twitter, so I feel like the natural next step is to make that person your VP. I thought there was a modicum of moment where that might have happened, but I wasn't holding my breath or anything. We didn't resonate enough. We had thousands of people inspired by the campaign, but we didn't connect on a broad enough level where we had millions of people that were activated about it. And that's what these candidacies need, is they really want numbers. They want whoever they appoint as VP to bring them numbers, and bring them support and bring them a whole state. And that's why I'm really dismayed at the moment that so far Elizabeth Warren, several days after dropping out, has still not endorsed Bernie. Looks like she's waiting to see who will offer her the best deal. And Bernie's her ideological match. They believe in the same thing. So if she doesn't endorse him ASAP, it proves, and I endorsed her, a few days before she dropped out, it starts to prove that she doesn't truly believe in her heart that we need the big structural change that she said so much that we need. But in fact, she just put together a platform that she thought might work, and that would be very disappointing. So I really hope she endorses Bernie immediately.
How surprised are you that Bloomberg dropped out so quickly after losing on Super Tuesday? I thought he would at least stick it out to one or two more of these, but he almost immediately faded away. I thought that was very surprising.
It just becomes very difficult delegate-wise. You end up with no path to the nomination, and I'm sure his internal thoughts the night of Super Tuesday was, oh my God, what's happening here? I put $500 million into this race, and I'm not winning anything. Now I understand how Ben Gleib feels with the corn pole.
Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, and looking at a path forward, that debacle in Iowa caucus, do you think if you would have still been in the race at that point, maybe you could have found a foothold to gain traction in that?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had people that had pledged to caucus for my candidacy, and if we had not dropped out, we would have made sure that they were still going to do that, and they were expanding their base, and they're prepared to get us 15% in a gym or town meeting room someplace. But it didn't go down that way. It's all good. Like I said from the beginning, this was never about me. I wasn't running because of some deep desire for myself to be president by any means. I was just running to give the American people another option during the most important election of our lives. I thought we need to consider everything and not just have politicians and billionaires in there. And that's why I threw my hat into the ring, and to show the candidates another way forward and a way to take Trump on in more effective, better, funnier, more aggressive ways. So hopefully I brought a little bit of that to the race.
I don't normally talk about politics on the show, but I do have one last question about your campaign, and then we'll move on to other subjects. But have you
Excellent. Because the campaign's over. I don't know if you heard, the campaign's over. And I don't talk about this whenever possible anymore.
Have you ever purposefully stabbed one of your hands?
I do it all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I do it all the time. I don't know how that's a political question at all, but I stab my hands a lot. It makes it harder to vote for yourself, and that way it humbles you and reminds you that you could vote for anybody and you have to do it with your nose. So I do try to stab myself in the hands at least weekly, but sometimes every few days.
Hey, you know, if somebody's voting with their nose, they have a vested interest in you.
That's exactly right. If they're going out to the polls and they've stabbed their hands previously and they're still doing their best to hit that touch screen for the Ben Gleib candidacy, you know that's somebody you should make your Secretary of State.
I like to do a thing on the show called A Question from My Last Guest, where my last guest gives me a question to ask my next guest without my last guest knowing who my next guest will be.
Seems like a very scientific way to do it. I love it.
The question can be silly or serious. Ben, are you ready for a question from my last guest?
Not at all, but go ahead.
I really need to know what your favorite go-to order from Taco Bell is. This is extremely important.
Oh, that's a good question, because I love me some Taco Bell. And like most Americans, usually only ever hit Taco Bell up if I'm stoned. And my typical go-to order would be a little bit impressive, I think you will find. 2 chicken soft tacos, 3 regular hard crunchy shell tacos with as much hot sauce and all these things you can find, a bean and cheese burrito, then one of the bigger things, like maybe a chicken quesadilla, maybe a gordita. But my girlfriend is a huge fan of the Crunchwrap Supreme, which is pretty incredible. That's become part of my repertoire now. And so I don't mean to brag and make it seem like I'm, better than you or better than others at Taco Bell ordering, but I think I objectively am.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive.
So I throw that in there as well, and then also maybe like a churro pack, So I try to go big. And I'll usually also do like a Mountain Dew or a Dr. Pepper. I don't drink soda typically, but I'm already killing my body that night. What's a little extra?
There you go. Well, speaking of impressive, you have your own podcast called Last Week on Earth with Ben Gleib, well over 200 episodes. What is one of the most memorable moments from your show?
That's a good question. So I do this podcast solo a lot because it's called Last Week on Earth because I summarize everything that happened during the last week on Earth. People are frustrated watching the news, so I do it so you don't have to. And I summarize news, politics, pop culture, trends, weird stories. I ask the audience questions. It's a real blast if you want to have a comedic take on what's happening on this planet. But I do have guests quite often also. And the most memorable moment would probably be when I had Bryan Cranston on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Walter White, of course, from Breaking Bad. And this was a few years ago, before I had my own home. I was living in an apartment in Hollywood. It was a pretty bare apartment. And I had done research to have Cranston on. I learned that he had done many, many commercials and he was coming up as an actor. And I asked him, do you ever feel like that was selling out to whatever brand came along to do 50, 60 commercials? Because I stopped auditioning for commercials years ago. And Cranston looks at me with literally Heisenberg eyes deep in my soul and says to me, really, Ben, is that why you stopped doing them? Were you booking them, Ben? And I go, okay, fair enough. I also wasn't booking the commercials. And he goes, that's why you stopped auditioning for them. Commercials were my lifeblood, and they enabled me to have a career in this business and to earn a living. But if you want to stay so pure, Ben, then I hope, for your sake, on behalf of all of us, that you never become truly successful and you forever live in this shithole apartment so we can always say that's the Ben we know and love.
Wow.
And that hit pretty deep. And the next day, I did 2 things. I went out and got a commercial agent again, and I redecorated my apartment to make it look like an adult's place to live. And that led to me saving some money and getting my own home. And it has led to me auditioning for commercials for the last 5 years since then and still booking none of them.
That's a great story.
Impactful moment, but results questionable.
Ben's 1 hour special, which aired on Showtime called Neurotic Gangster, is now up for free on YouTube. Ben, what do you have to say for yourself?
I'm sorry. I have a comedic brain that has twisted the world into a bunch of very weird musings that I rant about on comedy stages across the land, and I put them into an hour special, and it's all of my neuroses and thoughts and observations done in a gangster way. And I wanted to make sure it was on YouTube so that everybody could watch it for free. It's on Amazon Prime now too, but you can just watch it on YouTube. Please watch it. If you like it, share it with your friends, tweet about it, Facebook post about it. I want it to spread around and go viral. I'm very proud of it. And I'm touring around. I'm taking a little break from the road right now on account of coronavirus scaring everybody. And I'm developing some TV shows here and focusing on my podcast. So I'm not doing road dates right now. You'll see me on the road maybe closer towards the back half of the year. But for now, you can see my stand-up in germ-free video form. And I hope you enjoy it and tell your friends.
Don't sleep on Ben's personal YouTube channel either. He has all kinds of stuff up there, from stand-up to podcast to full-length improvised sets from various cities. It's definitely worth checking out.
Thank you. Yeah, the special's on the LOL Flicks page, who made my special. But yeah, hop on over to youtube.com/BGleib, BGLEIB. And like you said, I got all these different categories. Me being interviewed, me interviewing celebrities, podcasts, hidden camera pranks, man on the street bits. And I just released 8 different completely improvised hour specials. I was the first comedian in history to do a full headline set on Facebook Live. Did that in 2016. And I decided it was such a big hit. It got over 300,000 views on Facebook. So I did it in every single city for the rest of my tour and did it for 8 straight cities, made a bit of comedy history. It's almost like 8 comedy specials shot with one crappy camera right in the middle there. And it, on YouTube, since it's been up there for only about 3 weeks, it has a whopping like 20 views each. So you can be in on the ground floor on the YouTube views if you'd like.
There you go. And you got them all in one shot.
You're damn straight about that.
So take that, Tony Hinchcliffe.
Take that. What did Tony do? Oh, because he did a one-shot special for Netflix.
Exactly.
I love Tony, and I did hear you did that at the Ice House. Awesome. I did it 8 times in a row, baby.
And speaking of Netflix, you can watch Idiot Test over there. It's a good show. Is there anything else you want to say or promote before you go?
I wouldn't dream of it, but sure. I just wanted to promote people washing their hands. Stop shaking people's hands. Do like a bow, maybe. Let's get a little respectful distance-wise with this. Although I will still share joints with people, because to me, germs don't pass that way, because we have weird hypocritical double standards when it comes to germs. We don't want to share cups or shake hands, but damn it, I will pass around a wet piece of paper that everybody has sucked on for a while.
I'd like to think the smoke kills the germs in the paper.
I would love to think that as well. It's not true, but I would love to think. Maybe it's true. You know, I've never gotten sick from sharing joints with people. But then you get a little dry mouth from that weed, and somebody next to you offers you a sip of their water. You're like, disgusting. I do not want to share your water. Keep your water to yourself, and then go ahead and suck on this wet paper again.
Well, Ben, thanks for being on. I hope we can do it again later in the year.
I really have a fun time with your podcast, so I will do it anytime. I'm hoping maybe later in the year.
All right. I appreciate it very much.
You got it, bud.
This is Anthony Scaramucci, former White House Director of Communications. You are listening to We Don't Have Cookies.
Want to contact the show? Send an email to jason@wedon'thavecookies.com or call 929-266-9342 and leave a voicemail.
Joining me now from the Gold Coast of Australia is the world's first legally blind person to write, produce, edit, direct, and star in a feature film unassisted. The man behind Beer Nuts Productions, the one and only Gough. How you doing, Gough?
I'm very well, Jason, and yourself?
I'm doing good. It's great to hear from you. It's been a little while since you've been on the show. What have you been up to?
Well, yeah, no, we've been, me and all my Oompa Loompas have been very busy in the Beer Nuts Productions Fun Factory, and we've churned out a brand new film called How to Treat Women. It's a film all about feminism. And I thought to myself, you know, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do next, I thought, well, feminism, because who better to talk about feminism than a blind 38-year-old straight single male? I'm the perfect person to make this film. So I did.
What inspired you to make this one? Who hurt you?
That's a very, mate. There's not a couch big enough for me to lie on to go through all of those broken hearts of women. Needless to say, there's you know, I never got invited to prom, and it still stings, you know. But no, look, what inspired? Well, as you know, like I like taking a subject like feminism. You know, in the past we've done prostitution, and we've done pornography, and we've done the environment, you know, getting a subject that people are really touchy and sensitive about, and then just ripping it apart from every angle and trying to have a bit of fun with it. So essentially, obviously, as everybody knows, feminism is really the hot topic at the moment in regards to, you know, movements and whatnot. And so I thought, why not have a little bit of fun with that? So that's pretty much what I did.
Do you have any funny stories from behind the scenes of this movie?
Any funny stories? Well, I suppose this isn't funny as such, but we had a nice big rainstorm hit just as we're about to film the outside scenes, and it just would not stop raining. It was like 90-minute thunderstorm at like midday at lunchtime. Now, when does that happen? Like, seriously, when do you get a lightning thunderstorm last for 90 minutes at midday? Like, that just doesn't happen. So that was a little bit frustrating because it sent us behind a touch, but that was all right. And nobody broke any bones, or there was nothing, nobody fell down any flights of stairs or anything of that nature. It was, I guess it's kind of unfortunate because it would have made for a better story.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Are all the people in the movie still alive?
Well, at the moment, yes, though if some of them don't do a good job for me, then, I mean, there is a hole in the desert that I can have access to where, you know, some actors may be telling their stories to Shakespeare out there. But, you know, I feel that they bring it upon themselves for not putting in the performance that was asked of them.
Well, that's a fun fact. I'm glad that everybody's still alive. Has anybody asked you that about this movie?
No, but what I have been getting, because obviously you've had a bit of a sneak peek at the film, and obviously I'm in a bit of legal trouble towards the end of the film.
Yes.
And so a lot of people are wondering how that turned out. But of course, I can't disclose that information because that case is still pending. So, so if people want to know more about that, obviously they're going to have to watch the film. But no, it's fair to say I get myself into a little bit of bother towards the end.
I'd like to think that that's going to spin off into another movie.
It should do, yes. Yeah, no, that would be fun.
Because my favorite person in the movie was Savannah Kelly. I absolutely loved her. Do you have any stories about working with her?
Actually, she's terrific. She's a little pocket dynamo because there's nothing of her. But when the time comes for her to give me a spray, to give me an old-fashioned rocket, she wasn't shy about it. She absolutely stepped up to the plate and hit it out of the park. So I feel sorry for any of her boyfriends, both past and present, because I reckon you wouldn't want to step out of line with Savannah because I think that character was written pretty close to her personality type, I reckon.
Gough has been on the podcast a few times, so if you would like to hear more about how he does what he does despite being legally blind, or you want to hear about some of his other movies, I will have links to those episodes in the show notes. Before you go, where can people find you online, and where can they catch a glimpse of this film?
Everything we do is direct download, so there's only one place to get it, and that's beernutsproductions.com. And all of our films are up there, so this is actually our 18th film. So if people go to beernutsproductions.com, they can look at this film and then they can have a look and see, obviously we've got trailers and preview clips and all that sort of stuff, so they can check out and see what else they might wish to view. So yeah, we've got 18 different films for people to enjoy. And of course, Beer Nuts Productions is all over social media. So YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're on it, we're on it. So just type in Beer Nuts Productions and hopefully we come up.
One last question. What's your favorite toe on your body?
My favourite toe would have to be the third one down on my right foot, obviously.
I like my middle toe the most because when people make me mad, I raise it up like I'm giving them the middle finger, but they don't know it because I have socks or shoes on, so it never escalates things. That's a pro tip.
Well, that's smart. But see, I, on the other hand, enjoy escalating things, as you've seen by my films, so I would purposely walk around without my shoes on for that exact reason.
Well, it was great to have you on today. I'm looking forward to having you back.
No, absolutely, Jason. Thank you so much for your time.
A little bit of rockin'. She had beautiful eyes, two of them, a nose on her face and arms of equal length. She walked pretty well and had most of her teeth. That a girl like her could like me was beyond belief. So we went on a date and had dinner. Man, you should have seen the way she ate those chicken fingers. We went to the theater, I was feeling loose. Then I discovered the terrible truth. She talks during movies. She just won't shut her mouth. She talks during movies. Popcorn spilling out. Well, the movie started and she didn't stop. Gums just kept on flapping, chalky, chalky, chalk. Then she turned to me and said, "You look tense." Told me and the whole theater how the movie ends. And as she loudly chewed her gum, she took out her phone and started talking to her mom. A guy at the back said, "You're not at home." She shouted, "Shut up, can't you see him on the phone?" She talks during movies. Still, she's kinda cute. She talks during movies. I wish she were a mute. I could not believe a girl like her go out with me. Now I know why she's single and why I have got to leave. She talks during movies. I try to sneak out without her knowing. She talks during movies. She yells, "Hey, where are you going?" She talks during movies. I'm going home to watch a DVD. She talks during movies without the commentary.
Joining me now is the podcast's official weatherman, Frankie MacDonald. Frankie, what will the weather be like this week starting on Monday?
In Ohio, it's going to bring lots of rain. It's going to be sunny with cloudy periods on Monday. Then it's going to cloud over. It's going to bring lots of rain. Ohio, Tuesday with high of 14 degrees Celsius. That's over 40 Fahrenheit to 50 Fahrenheit.
What will it be like across the United States?
It's going to bring a whole lot of rain. Los Angeles on Tuesday, it's going to bring over 40 millimeters of rain in greater Los Angeles, California, USA. Over New York, the weather there. It's going to be, there's a special weather statement. It's going to be minimum humidity. It's going to bring 1 to 3 millimeters of rain Tuesday. It's going to be sunny Monday in New York City, in New Jersey. And it's going to bring mainly sunny on Wednesday at a high of 10 New York City. There's not much heavy rain forecast in New York City.
Do we have any weather that people should be aware of in Canada?
That means they had a major snowstorm in Saskatchewan. People have to shovel it out and everything like Saskatoon, up around Alberta and Manitoba. And storm just left Nova Scotia with a little bit of snow, but high winds. It's just, and then leaving Newfoundland now. And that snowstorm is headed right. It's going to bring more rain in England. It's going to bring stormy weather all across Europe.
Is there any other weather that we should be worried about internationally?
Down in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, they're getting lots of rain right now and drizzle weather. It's going to bring 5 millimeters of rain. On Monday, 1 millimeter rain Tuesday in Sydney, Australia. The fall starts on March 19th in Sydney, Australia.
Well, Frankie, your birthday's coming up. I'm trying to put together a birthday episode for you. Is there anybody in particular you would like to hear on that episode?
Yes, on my birthday and things like that, ice cream cake and things like that. And did you hear about that? And fall starts in Southern Hemisphere on March 19th. Their summer will be over.
Yeah, I think I heard something about that pretty recently.
Their season's the opposite of yours. Yes, their winter starts on June 21st down in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Argentina, and all these places. Queenstown, New Zealand gets lots of snow in July.
You know, for some reason, I never think of New Zealand getting snow, but they obviously do. That's a beautiful part of the world. I always wanted to go to New Zealand.
You have listeners for New Zealand.
Yes, I do. And a good buddy of mine, Benny Mac, lives down there. We have the same birthday.
Yes, what about you have listeners in Australia, South Africa, and Argentina?
That's right. And a shout out to one of the listeners, Chris Doyle. He is going to be on the podcast next week to talk about the St. Patrick's Day stuff.
And then that means then you'll get listeners from Russia too.
Yes, sir. We have them all over the world. And I want to take the time right now to thank everybody who is listening internationally. It's pretty awesome to see those numbers. I think our international audience here is somewhere between 30 and 40%. And most podcasts, it's usually about 10. So a lot of international listeners listening to this podcast.
Yes, and I still got a YouTube channel. I got 226,000 subscribers now.
Yeah, and where can people find your YouTube channel, Frankie?
www.youtube.com/dogsandwolves, a.k.a. Frankie MacDonald.
All right. Is there anything else you want to promote before you go?
My bobblehead is on National Bobbleheads Hall of Fame website, Talking Frank Now Bobbleheads. Pre-order it now.
All right, Frankie. It was great talking to you. I'll talk to you next week.
Best luck to you. I'm Frankie MacDonald. You are listening to We Don't Have Cookies Internet Radio Podcast.
Have a great day, Frankie.
I'm ready right now.
And as you just heard, listener Chris Doyle will be on the podcast next week. He's living in Australia, but he's from Ireland. And as I just said, he's going to come on and talk about St. Patrick's Day stuff. So that'll be a lot of fun. I don't know what I mean by St. Patrick's Day stuff. That's just how it came out, which I think now is a good time to segue into this week's Strange Days. But first, this week is International Bubble Week and Crochet Week. Hate to burst your bubble, but I don't crochet. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, Monday, March 9th, is Napping Day. That sounds like a great holiday. I'm going to be very, very busy today, so I will not be able to celebrate that one. But Tuesday is Mario Day. It's another good one. I'll be breaking out the Nintendo tomorrow for sure. Wednesday is Oatmeal Nut Waffle Day. That's a hard pass for me. Thursday is Alfred Hitchcock Day, which is a shame because if it was just one day later, it would fall on Friday the 13th. So let's see which holiday that is. Friday the 13th is Jewel Day. I'm going to celebrate Jewel Day by watching Friday the 13th movies. Saturday is Pie Day, the mathematical pie, not the edible pie. One of a handful of indie movies that I like is called Pie. If you haven't seen it, that would be a good day to check it out. And finally, Sunday is Everything You Think Is Wrong Day, which I'm pretty sure I celebrated that last Saturday. All right, guys, I have an extremely busy week coming up, which is going to lead into extremely busy months. I will be talking about that on future episodes, I'm sure, so I won't bother you with the details right now. But I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you had fun listening. I'll talk to you next Monday.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review. See you next time.
I'm ready right now.